That looks delicious.
So really good. And Mike Hay with retconners coming to the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the crew from Rick and Morty.
That was my idea.
More ideas.
I was like, please, can we do like schematics of the gun, please? And then Brett Knoll, our prop guy, who he was season 1, season 2 prop guy. Amazing talented guy. He designed that shirt. So fucking cool.
I wanted to ask you guys, you've been getting away with sprinkling Star Trek The Next Generation in Rick and Morty, the ranking and the board and stuff like that. How much more of that could you possibly see?
What's the episode we did that was sort of like the Star Trek episode McMahon's always talking about, like season 2? I don't know, forget it.
Well, we often, like most of the episodes, it's like they're inspired by either plots of specific TV show episodes or movies. There's an essence of that, but you're talking about like
the straight up Ferengi looking dude, the pilot. So Jenny, Gallium Jenny was character designer in the pilot. She threw that in there, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. That's cool. I love Star Trek, so I was like, yeah, it's a little Easter egg character. And we've reused them a few times, you know.
Star Trek covers so much ground, so much territory that, you know, we're gonna, I mean, the community episode with the Borg, it's like, well, I mean, we're gonna give a little nod to the actual Borg, even though we're not doing a Borg episode. It's a
I know what it was. And by the way, it wasn't like we were trying to emulate this. It just was after we did it. McMahon had mentioned that the Roy thing was sort of similar, I think, right, to the Picard episode. Yeah, but again, it wasn't like.
But that's what I'm saying. Star Trek covers so much territory.
Exactly. It's like South Park. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's 2016. You know, everything's been done. We just have to. It's like when you mix paints. You're like, I'm going to use a brand new color no one's ever painted with, and then you find out, no, they've been.
That's just purple.
Fucking Rembrandt was using that.
The first person to mix blue and red.
Simpsons did it.
When he was alive. With the dinosaurs.
I love that you did a sequel to Intergalactic Television, because I'm franchise Fred, and I always want more sequels. Could we see a trilogy of Intergalactic Television 3?
Possibly, yeah. We're figuring it out. It's very rough on production. It's not an easy episode to make.
We also might have introduced a new recurring franchise.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Introducing something kind of amazing. We can't say much about that we're doing this season, but there's probably room for both ultimately. I'd be down to do it. Let's ask the panel. Let's ask the panel.
From my perspective, like James Cameron, if we're gonna do a sequel, you know, unlike 2, we have to like make.
It's got to be different.
Really.
The connective tissue has to be different, and Ridley's got a really good pitch that you haven't heard yet, so we're not going to talk about it here, because that's, you know, too much spoiler alert territory.
Too much meat.
Just to go off that, I remember talking to you guys last year, you were hesitant to bring a lot of callbacks or select characters that just from the 6 back. Is that something that kind of changed for season 3, knowing that season 2 was successful and it kind of stood on its own?
It did. I mean, for me, because I would say Justin was very receptive to it. I was very alarmist about callbacks because of Community getting a reputation so early on for being insular and like you have to have a relationship with the show in order to decode it, which I never wanted to have that reputation. And so I was extra going into season 2 of Rick and Morty. I was like, if we don't have to do another Meeseeks episode, then let's not do it. Then this time, that next year, I was like, we should have done another Meeseeks episode. But Justin's point is like, if we had had a great idea, we would have done it. And that's true. But it is, I will say that this season, going into it, because of that experience, I was more like, yeah, can we bring back such and such? Can we do another episode with such and such? I would love, we still haven't done it yet, but I would definitely want to see another episode with Keith David's character as the president. Because that was specifically designed to be a thing. That was another option for the show to do. Is a
whole different type of narrative, you know.
It's definitely inspired by the Doctor Who lieutenant, who, I remember in the Rick Baker years, he would just get called back to Earth help the British government with something like in between like traveling with Hasman.
And it's funny, like throughout the course of season 3, we've had Meeseeks in like I think 2 or 3 episodes, and ultimately we cut it because it doesn't really. It's just like a background. I mean, it's not really servicing it. It's nothing new. It feels too like cutesy, like, and also it's also structurally the scene is it's bigger things that are sort of like. But
I've always thought it was cool. To your question about Next Generation, if there's an episode where it's a Meeseeks like Hugh the Borg in the Next Generation mythology, that why this Meeseeks is different.
Yeah,
Meeseeks doesn't want to.
Spoiler alert.
I'm not saying we're doing that. I'm not saying we might do that. I'm saying if we're gonna do it,
it has to have an amazing.
It should be motivated by what do we know about the Meeseeks and what can we learn? How can we open up that mythology instead of just having Justin go, I'm just Meeseeks again.
The same. Yeah, it has to be a new thing.
However, you could also do an episode where that's not about that as a topic. I just have it like Dr. Seuss use it as a tool. As long as it tracks for a first-time viewer, I guess that's some kind of guy that says I'm Mr. Meeseeks and does this thing. You have to just like serve those masters, I guess. You always have to imagine what if some random person is watching a show that's never heard of it. Are they going to be able to understand what's going on?
Are we actually going to see the Cthulhu monster from the opening of the 3rd season?
No comment. I plead the 5th on that one.
You're going to see some things that people have been wanting to see.
You'll never be able to unsee.
You guys are into season 3 now. I'm sure going into season 1, you have to kind of hope that it's going to sort of stick that landing with the audience. So now that you're in 3, it's a little more comfortable and you know that the audience is there. Is it harder or easier to do these episodes?
Much harder.
I think it's harder. Yeah, definitely. Because really, but I mean, it's just because the expectations and what we've done, like looking at what we've done, looking at how it's been received.
I don't even think that.
Really? What do you think?
I think it's just more like we're like, what's the potential of the show, and therefore, what's the potential of every episode to be the best possible version it can be? There's so much potential that internally, without even ever reading Reddit or anything, I wouldn't even think that's an influence. I think like we're like, oh my god, we can do anything we want because the network lets us do anything we want, and so it's only our own standards, and so we're like, well, how can we make every episode a masterpiece? If it's not a masterpiece, we're going to freak out and try to make it a masterpiece, and then
that's the internal bar is very high, so yeah, that is true. But it's a good thing. I mean, ultimately, it's like, it's going to result in really, really good episodes across the board. We don't want to have a bad episode that's like universally considered, that's the Rick and Morty's. I mean, they arguably exist already, right? I don't know. But
what, bad episodes?
I guess, I don't know.
I mean, look,
I love them all, but, but we just, I just mean, our worst episodes are like contested. There's people who fight for those. Like, that's my favorite episode. Well, that's my, that's the one I think of. But then we just don't want one that's like universally, like everyone's like, okay, that was a stinker. So, and I don't think that'll ever happen.
I do.
This season? Season 4.
This season is a stinker.
Really?
I
He's
so
joking.
far, there hasn't been a stinker.
We're not gonna let it out the gate, man.
No, it's true. I mean, this season we were behind schedule, and Ryan came over to my house on a weekend, and I watched the animatic, which is as far as you can go before.
No, it was a thumb. It was thumbs.
Right. Well, whatever. I was trying to be more dramatic. As the thumbnail animatic of episode 304, and I was ready to move forward with it, and then Ryan said, "Well, me and Dan Guterman, another writer, like we talked to Justin about it. We wanted to see your reaction to it." And I had to pull it out of him. He's like, "No, we're not satisfied with it. We want to start over." And we were already way behind schedule, and those guys are the ones that bear the brunt of us being behind schedule. They have to work weekends. And they're the ones that wanted to do it. There's a weird higher calling there. and it's not an endless perfectionism, because you know when something finally clicks and you go, this is a good episode of TV. But it's not just me. I was very happy to find that out. Either I had infected people, or that it's not just me. That left to your own devices, you'll go, look, this is going to be on TV. It's going to have our names on it. It should be good.
Yeah, we just want to make the best season 3 we can, and do the fans right. Yes,
And ourselves.
And ourselves.
Yeah, because we really want to know what happened to Mr. Mr. Butthole Poopy Pants.
Yeah.
He's around. I mean,
Get
he's
ready.
hanging out watching the show, as you saw at the end of season 2. You know, he's waiting like everybody else. You know?
Okay. Thank you guys.
So you're saying everybody else is rolling around in pizza?
That's a great cosplay from somebody said.
Are you serious?
Like,